And so that's huge, because I've been trying to tell my clients, and I've been trying to tell anybody in our Facebook group or even on my personal page, that like, if you can really invest time into the training, into the videos, right, you're going to get a lot more in return on your investment, because employees are the biggest investment in your business, pretty much, right?
Like, oh my gosh, it takes me 5 times longer to teach someone to do something when I could just do it myself. But the problem is that not only is there some element of truth to it taking longer to train someone than it is for you to do it yourself, but the secondary problem is when you don't ever practice true delegating to someone else, you never get better at it. So
all right, we are here again for another amazing episode of the Real Concrete Coating TalkPod. I have yet another special, amazing guest that I'm actually super thrilled to have with me today, because, to be quite honest, I have been following. I probably know more about you than you know about me. Put it that way. It's been a long time.
I appreciate it, man.
Super inspiring for me, man. Building my businesses and really listening to all the things that you're saying. In fact, we just met up for the very first time. I think I actually officially shook your hand for the first time at the World of Concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had a summit. You had a presentation at the summit, which was, I couldn't take notes fast enough. Taking pictures of your slides and all this stuff, because anytime you do a presentation, anytime you're always being vulnerable and putting yourself out there, it just seems like all the nuggets start coming out, and it blows me away, And so my hope today is that we can do this for other people, other concrete coating companies that are struggling with various things. So why don't you introduce yourself, kind of tell me a little bit about your story and kind of how you got here.
Well, first of all, thank you, Rudy. Appreciate you having me on, and grateful for everyone watching this too. My story is very, very similar to a lot of entrepreneurs. Decided one day that I wanted to go out and start a business on my own. But even before that, I kind of had the experience of watching my dad own a window cleaning business for 33 years as an owner operator. So he went out and started a window cleaning business in 1978, ran that business for many years. And I actually worked full time with him since age of 13, homeschooled through high school, didn't go to college, but just got a chance to kind of see that whole journey of him kind of, running this business as an owner operator. And life was actually pretty great. Had an amazing childhood, got lots of good FaceTime with my dad. 2012, he was diagnosed with heart disease, and the business was kind of forced to shut down and close. And at that point in time, I had several other entrepreneurial ventures, many of which were unsuccessful, just to be clear. But largely ran those businesses as owner operator. But at that point in time is when I really kind of like, okay, I really got to get focused. I got to take care of my parents. I got to take care of my family. I have new kid, a new child that's here, two young kids. I got to really take this seriously if I want to take care of all these people, including myself and my family. And kind of set out to kind of grow that exterior cleaning, window cleaning business, from there. So, started out with 0 employees. The business was doing about $8,000 a month when I bought it from my dad. I told him I'd buy it for $3,000 a month for life. And the rest of it was a lot of pain and suffering and learning lessons along the way to try to figure out how to pull that off.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, and we'll get to kind of a little bit more about what you're doing now and how you got to where you are today. But the one thing that always kind of piqued my interest was, and I know a lot of you guys who are listening to this or watching this feel the same way, where there's a tipping point where owner operator, you see these people and they're successful and they got teams and they're doing things and they're $2, $3, $4, $5 million a year. And you can see that now they have time to go to things. They can go do stuff. They can go travel. They can go to different conventions, and you just see a whole nother level of life experiences that you can enjoy by doing that. But for some reason, many of it, I already know it's fear-based, like hugely. There's a lot that gets in the way. We always think that we're always going to do better than them, right? Because we're the owner and people like to deal with us because we're the owner and all this kind of stuff. But there's this thing that happens, and I've experienced this myself, where I'll hire somebody and it just goes to shit. absolute like total disaster, mess, breaking things, cutting their hands open, you know, all this kind of stuff starts happening. And I start realizing like, I can't do this. Like, this is not, I don't know how you guys do it. And for me, I'm just kind of curious because I don't know if I've really heard that part with you, is the point where you decided that $8,000 a month wasn't going to cut it. You got family coming in, all this kind of stuff, but you knew you were like burnt out. You're working all the time. What was the tipping point for you, or maybe what snapped in your head to realize that you needed to hire people? And can you kind of like maybe put that a little bit into more detail about
Sure.
struggles with that as well, just so other people can kind of understand it?
Yeah. So when I sat down and kind of wrote out the business plan, quote unquote, for what this would look like to buy my dad's business, I knew that if I was going to pay him $3,000 a month, the business was doing $8,000 a month. There would not be enough meat on the bone after expenses of running the business for me to be able to support a family of 4. And ultimately my why was I wanted my wife not to have to work. At this point in time, she was working. She had a full-time job. It's the only way, you know, we had babysitters come over, and that was like hard to see, like, you know, us not be home with our kids. And so, you know, that was a big motivator and driver for me to say, I got to do something different, you know, and to get somewhere you've never been means doing things you've never done before. And I had been in the same trap of doing the same thing forever. And like, I kind of knew how to, you know, what I needed to do, but I really didn't know what that would look like and how hard that would be. So my first growth plan that I made, I was like, okay, year 1, $100,000 a year. Year 2, $120,000 a year. Year 3, $140,000 a year. Year 5, you know, $200,000 a year. And I remember we kind of wrote out that plan, and I showed my dad, and he was like, wow, you know, do you really think we can double this business in 5 years? And I was like, I have no idea. I mean, genuinely, that looked scary. Like, looking at that, like, I was like, I think we can do this. And I always remind myself, and I tell other people about that story too, because I get it right now. If you're watching this, it seems impossible. The thought of like not being on the tools, the thought of hiring a salesperson, of you know, growing your business and getting this level, like, there's a gap that's so massive between, you know, where you are now and what your future vision is. And that's honestly one of the biggest reasons why a lot of entrepreneurs kind of get paralyzed. Whereas when you look at someone who has a job there and they're making $50,000 a year, and their goal this year is to get like a 10% raise, that gap is a lot smaller. And it doesn't feel as intimidating, as paralyzing. So you first need to understand, and I need to understand, that our brains are wired differently, and that kind of overwhelm and fear of the size of our gap, you know, the gap effect is largely contributing to why a lot of people don't take action. So what I had to do is I had to just be like, okay, I'm not going to worry about this picture. I'm just going to worry about like, what's the very next step I need to kind of take. And for me, it was to hire my first employee. I was like, well, I need a helper. If I want to do more work than $100,000 a year, I got to hire a helper, you know, so I could maybe bump that up a little bit. And so I did. And, you know, I learned all kinds of stuff about just that one first new employee. And I've made the mistake early on in my career where I hired a helper that, you know, I would talk to the customer. I would go in and do all this stuff with that customer, and the helper would like clean up the job when we're done and get everything ready, you know, go put the door hangers on the next door neighbors. And a lot of people can fall into that trap where they're in that helper stage 1 business on the tools for 33 years. Like, ask me how I know that can happen. Because that's exactly what I witnessed. And so I knew that, like, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to work, you know, my shoulder out of socket. I didn't want to beat up my body. I didn't want to have the fact if I fall off this ladder and the business is over, my family can't be taken care of. So, you know, from there, it was like, okay, my next big mindset shift is, if I'm going to eventually get off the truck, I have to hire a person that can be competent enough to be able to actually run a job without me. And then I have to be very strategic on training that person how to do everything. And then now I'm his helper. Like, you know, so that was like the first mindset shift where I'm like, okay, I'm no longer going to be the guy on the tool doing the thing. I'm now going to be his assistant, and I'm just going to be watching him and kind of coaching him, but he's going to talk to customers. He's going to collect payment. He's going to talk about when do we schedule it. He's going to look at the calendar and tell us where our next job is going to. And when I changed that, I saw something kind of click for him in his mind, like, oh crap, like, okay, this is real. And then for me, I was like, oh my gosh, like I could actually imagine now hiring him a helper, and then I could get off the truck.
Yeah.
So it was very incremental. And I encourage, for anyone that's watching this, like is on the truck, like take that one single mindset shift about I'm just going to be this person's helper, and then think about what that person should be, how they should be, and just kind of train them to get that. And it requires a lot more watching than doing to make sure that they've actually, like completed that process.
So did you do any like training videos? Like, do you have like a place where they can refer to and like
No,
training binder or anything like that?
not for
Did you work
years.
like that?
Not for years. No, I fell into the trap for many years of, new employee comes in, I'm teaching them, I'm doing all this stuff. And then 4 weeks later, and then they quit. And then the new person comes in, and it's like repeating myself. So I finally wisened up one time, and I was like, I gave my person that I was training my phone, and I said, hey, I need to start recording this so I don't have to repeat myself ever again. Just point the phone at me and listen, and I'll train you on how to do this, but this time you're recording me. And so then I was like, okay, here's exactly how you do the job. Here's how you do this. Here's all your tools. Here's all this other stuff. And then I just would like save that video and throw it into a Google Drive. And now I started building a library that would eventually become my full-blown training LMS. It didn't happen overnight. It wasn't like some big dedicated project when I first started. But again, it's just, don't think about the gap of I need to have this fully systemized day 1 to day 90 training program. Like, no, just record one video and throw it into a Google Drive today. And now you're 1% better.
And like even for my digital marketing agency, same traps, exact same thing. It doesn't matter what kind of business you run. If you're providing a service for somebody, it's the same thing. When you have employees that you're using to do the work, there has to be something there that they can refer to, and you can use this as a really, really good training program. And it doesn't take overnight. Like you can't just go out and be like, okay, I got my whole library, because the other thing is that could change in 6 months again.
100%.
Right. Yeah. And so like for me, it's 2 years. I think now I'm feeling comfortable with where we're at in terms of like bringing someone on. And I can just throw them on the training videos, and then, then we can go through the rest of it. Right. And so that's huge, because I've been trying to tell my clients, and I've been trying to tell anybody in our Facebook group or even on my personal page, that like, if you can really invest time into the training, into the videos, right, you're going to get a lot more in return on your investment, because employees are the biggest investment in your business, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
And so that is just so huge. Like, I can't stress enough, because there's been so many times where I've just wanted to go, you know what? Never mind, I'll just do it myself.
Right.
Right? Like, clearly you're not getting it, but that's not true. What it is I'm not giving them the power. I'm not empowering them to be better. I'm not allowing them to make mistakes. And when I got past that fear of being like, you know what, mistakes are going to happen. This is a learning lesson. I can record it. I can make it a thing. Right?
Delegation is a muscle.
Yeah.
It is, and I fell into that same trap where I'm like, oh my gosh, it takes me 5 times longer to teach someone to do something when I could just do it myself. But the problem is that not only is there some element of truth to it taking longer to train someone than it is for you to do it yourself, but the secondary problem is when you don't ever practice true delegating to someone else, you never get better at it. So like even the case, part of my background was in graphic design. When I was a struggling entrepreneur, I tried doing a bunch of everything. And one of the things was teaching myself how to do Photoshop and like designing logos, and teaching myself how to do code and designing websites. And when I had my company All Clean, I wanted to do all my own marketing, do all my own branding, do my logos, do my websites. And the big challenge for that was, because I had a good understanding of how to do something, it was almost impossible for me to describe to someone what I wanted that finished product to look like. And it wasn't a them problem, it was a me problem.
Yeah.
And the more I just like, nope, I got to keep sending revisions back. I got to keep doing this. I started to realize tools and tricks to be able to delegate properly and, record your screen and walk through things as opposed to just typing out feedback, and little small nuances like that, to where eventually I became very good at delegating. And then when I would start delegating something to a designer or someone else, because we built that relationship,
Yep.
I could literally say a few sentences and they would get it and understand it and be able to kind of deploy it. So it's a muscle. You got to exercise that muscle to be able to kind of let go of control someday.
Yeah. And so as you've gone through that, well, actually, before you say that, my coach that I have now, he's absolutely wonderful. His name's Chris Morrison. He's a beast. One thing that he said to me, which really clicked for me, was, I got it written up here: pretend what you're doing is for someone else's business. Because it basically just complements what you just said. Like, imagine you got hired as a CEO for a concrete coating company, and your job was to grow that thing. Maybe you've barely had any knowledge in what it is that you're doing. You just know how to grow a business to some degree, right? So if you put your mindset there, all it is delegation, trying to figure out who to put the right people in the right place, right? Figure out what the marketing budget is and make a plan and blah, 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 all that stuff, right? And when you take the emotion and the fear out of it, things get a little bit easier, right? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah. The more you just do the reps, the easier it becomes to do that. And it is the biggest gap from us being where we are now and where we want to be.
Yep.
It's all in our headspace, our ability to just be able to kind of let go of those things and move on to the next thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so now you've changed your mindset quite a bit. You've had to go through a little bit ups and downs trying to get there, but you figured it out. And then you grew All Clean Soft Wash before you sold it to how many employees?
We had 70 at the time when I exited.
Guys, 70 employees. And I remember seeing your picture, and it was like, I can't remember how many the fleet was, but it was, you had all the trucks in the background.
24 service vehicles.
24?
Yeah. 24
service vehicles and 70 employees standing in front, all branded, all professional. Like, it was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Right? And guess what? Brandon started with one helper. So if he can do it, anybody can do it. We just have to really just work through that process, I think,
100%.
And this is what's inspired me the most about you, Brandon, is the amount of things that you've done over a short time to get, I shouldn't say short time, because it took you a long time to get to what people see now, right? But, and now kind of to give us a little bit of insight of what you're doing now that will actually show the audience that you know what you're talking about and it will benefit them. You know what I mean?
One of the things that's, so in 2019, I founded a company called Conquer, and it's become one of the quickest growing coaching organizations that helps home service businesses. We partnered up with House Call Pro. We've done lots of cool things. We have like 50 certified coaches that have all built 7 and 8 figure home service businesses. We have advisors. We have boot camps. We have foundations course, online courses, digital events. We've helped over 21,000 business owners through our programs and events, going through that part of it. And one of the exercises that I kind of wanted to do was, I missed home services because I sold my home service business to kind of fund and launch Conquer. Yep. But I also just missed the work. I missed doing something new, and concrete coatings was what piqued my interest. Yeah. So there's a couple people. One of our coaches, his name was Chris Phillips. He had a concrete coatings business. One of our conquerors, Lee Baker, very successful concrete coatings business. And so I decided to launch a concrete coatings business, but I did it a little bit differently. I recorded 16 episodes on a channel called Map to a Million on YouTube and documented like growing it from 0 to 7 figures. But the thing that I wanted to kind of teach and show, more so than just scaling to a revenue number, was that I wanted to grow it without answering any phone calls from the business, without doing any sales calls in the field, and without doing any of the physical work from day one. Yeah. There's a lot of self-limiting beliefs around, you have to do it in the field. You have to get out there and you have to do the work. No, you don't really. You can get really good people on your team, attract people in. So like day one, I hired 3 people. By month 3, we had 7 employees.
Yeah.
And we hit, 100 grand a month on month 4. We hit 7 figures our first year. And then we franchised it. And now we have 21 locations. We're doing about $1 million a month right now in revenue.
That's amazing.
Over the course of the last 2 years, we've grown that much. And it's all been because of people and team, focusing about getting the right person and getting them in the right place.
It's super inspiring, man, because actually me and a partner, he's actually a client. We became really good friends. We actually met at one of the huge conventions and hit it off. Been buddies ever since. I go hang out with him for some beers on the weekends sometimes. And he had this idea of a gutter cleaning company for a long time, but since 2013, never did anything with it. Had an old Facebook page for 2013, but it's still sitting there, right? And we started talking more and more about it. And because I've created a lot of more, expertise in the service industry and have a huge understanding of systems, automations, and how to build a business. He's got 33 years or 30 some years of experience in the industry. He's $1 million in his service business. And we're just like, why don't we partner up and just do clean my dirty gutters?
Yeah.
And we'll do it where we're not touching anything, just kind of like what you were doing. So we are actually right now in the process of doing that. We're going to be going to sign.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Get bank accounts next week, man. So we're
right on.
Yeah, super excited about it. So same thing. Once you kind of get an understanding and you get past that fear of implementation and delegation, it's so much easier. Is it going to be easy all the time? No. There's going to be problems. There's going to be this that you didn't think about or whatever. But exactly the same thing as you. I'm super excited about it. It's something new, just really, really exciting. So wanted to share that with you. So
that's
my journey because it's going to be fun. But,
I love it.
So yeah, that's Wise Coatings, right? That you have. That's your
Yes.
big franchise that you have there. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me now what's led to this new venture that you have. I've seen a lot about it on Facebook. I've seen a lot about it in your presentations, saw it at the summit. Tell me a little bit more about this new project that you have going on that will help these concrete coating guys kind of get through this hiring nightmare that they seem to be having all the time.
Well, when you talk to tens of thousands of home service business owners over the year, and one of the first questions that you ask them is, hey, what keeps you up at night? What's some of your biggest problems? What's your biggest struggles? What's preventing you from growing right now? What's your goals? What's preventing you from getting there? And one of the top 2 answers is really what we call the teeter-totter. The one is, how do I get new customers? How do I get sales and marketing, actually coming in? And the other one is, how can I hire and keep good people? And for me and my business, our last year when we were growing All Clean, we hired 25 technicians in 30 days to launch our spring season for the last one. We were adding a truck a month.
That's great.
And the only way that we could do that was approach our hiring like a marketing challenge to solve. And
Love it.
That is actually one of the biggest principles when it comes to going out and finding good talent is, what's your hook? What's in it for them? What they have all these different types of careers, and what's the harder sell to get someone, sell them a concrete floor coatings, job on their residential house, or convince another human to work more hours with you than they even spend at home with their own families. Like, it's a way harder sale, but we don't apply the same marketing chops to each one of these. So I've wanted to have develop a solution to this problem for a long time. And honestly, what kind of led to this was we just basically started building the exact same funnels that we were doing for Wise Coatings and for All Clean, and just started basically building them out for every other home service business owner out there.
Yeah.
So it's a platform that called HireBus. And at its heartbeat is a behavioral assessment tool. It's a single question assessment that gets a whole bunch of behavioral feedback and 21 different behavioral scores, and then benchmarks that benchmark how well someone will fit behaviorally in a role on a scale of 1 to 10, whether that's sales or lead technicians, et cetera, office manager, production manager. And what we have also built out on top of it is a done for you hiring funnel, where literally someone goes in and places it writes all of their job ads, it posts all of the job ads, it optimizes them, continually goes back and rewrites copy using AI until they perform at the highest level. And then pulls them in, analyzes their resumes with AI, does conversational AI nurture sequences to like pull them along, and then gives them the assessment, and then like auto schedules interviews for like the top cream of the crop applicants.
Okay, guys, did you hear that? If
Yes.
not, rewind it one more time and understand what he just said, because this process, sure, the marketing part of it is huge. I love how that, and it's so true.
Yeah.
But you have to sell a lot harder to hire somebody in a different way than you do have to sell a concrete coating grad for.
100%.
But I didn't even know that you had all of the. Maybe that's the part I went to the bathroom at the summit. I don't know, but like just the whole fact that you have everything from beginning to end. Listen to this, guys. He's got the whole thing figured out. Okay, beginning to end. Sales copy, how to bring them into the funnel, and using AI, able to vet out the people that you have spent countless hours meeting at a coffee shop and they're ghosting you. Right? This stuff happens all the time, where you bring somebody on because, oh, I need it right now. And you bring somebody on because, oh yeah, he lied to you and said all this stuff that he's good at, but he isn't. And then he's on the job site, doesn't know what he's doing. This causes a major snowball effect of negativity about how you view people working for you, right? You know, this happens too many times. You're just going to have this mindset of like, oh, everyone's garbage. Like it's useless. You employees suck and blah, 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 blah. It's not true.
That's
It's not true at all. There's a lot of people that will take a bullet for your business, right? But you have to find the right ones.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'll just like encourage people, whether or not you use HireBus or not, immediately start changing how you write your job ads.
Yep.
So, you know, when you see these job ads like, you know, must be able to lift 80 pounds, must have a clean driving record, must be able to do this, must be able to do that. Like they're very vanilla. They don't really mean anything. And what you want to have is you want to have your job ads written in a way where people read them and they're like, oh my gosh, this company sounds absolutely amazing. Like this is, you know, it's an attraction principle.
Yep.
And when you start talking about your core values and what makes you different and why it's such a great opportunity to come work for in your company, you're going to start attracting better quality candidates that don't ghost you and don't, because they're actually genuinely excited. They didn't just hit the apply all button to 50 open jobs.
Yeah.
And then now all of a sudden you're one out of 50 other companies that are trying to reach them. Like, no, they read your copy, it drew them in, and now they want to see it all the way through to the interview because they're pumped up about it.
Exactly.
So that's what we do. We focus all on it from a marketing effort, and we actually write all your job ads. And but even if you don't use it, like please just start marketing. Think of it like a marketing exercise.
Yeah, but and you know what? For the cost, it's not even that bad. Like think about how much you invest in hiring the wrong people on an ongoing basis, right? Imagine how nice it would be to like. Obviously, it's not always going to be 100%, but imagine how it would be if, like you say, that gap is reduced at such a dramatic level that really at the end of the day, though, when you get people that, let's say, go through the HireBus process and you hire this person and there's still a lot of mistakes, that's on you.
That's right.
That's on you as the business owner, right?
Yeah.
No more victim mentality, no more fear. This is because you don't have a training system. It's because you didn't do training properly and you didn't invest your time in that person, right? And so if you combine everything that Brandon said today about his story and how he got to where he is, and the reason why he's doing what he's doing right now, in my opinion, it's a no-brainer. In fact, I'll be talking to you after this about me getting HireBus because now I have two businesses.
Heck
and,
yeah,
as for quoting marketers, like I have a funnel that I built, but I really love this. It's just, and it just like a CRM. How much time does it take off your plate? What's your time worth?
Right.
Seriously. Like how many trips to the coffee shop have you been back and forth completely disappointed because somebody didn't show up and you could have been doing estimates instead, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever it might be. And so I really, really love this, Brandon. Like this is profound. It really is. It's really, really remarkable, the stuff that you're doing to help service businesses. And that's why I wanted to bring you onto this podcast.
Hey, thank you, Rudy. You're making me blush, man. You're making me feel like a HireBus infomercial. I got to start paying you. That's pretty great.
Okay. I never said I was bad at sales. Okay.
Yeah.
No, but I mean that's the honest truth. But like, is there somewhere that they can reach out to you in some way where they can kind of get a little bit more information about it?
Yeah.
and like book a demo or whatever it might be, just in case they're interested?
Yeah. If you want to go to hirebus.com/free, what you'll do is, you can take the assessment yourself. People are like, well, what's the assessment look like? It's one single question. And it's a very interesting question. And now you probably wonder what it is. Well, if you go to hirebus.com/free, you can take it for yourself. It's a very fun little process kind of going through it, but the results are also eye-opening just for the owner themselves to kind of see, hey, how behaviorally are they fit for sales themselves? Maybe their business, maybe they're going out and doing all the sales. Maybe they shouldn't be. Maybe they should be getting a better salesperson to come in, and they're focused more on the production management and the admin side. So there's lots of insights that you can get for your business from that perspective.
Yep.
And then what you can do is you can schedule a demo. Once you take the free assessment, you can just book a calendar right on our or book a time right on our calendar. We'll walk you through exactly what the whole hiring funnel looks like. Because the reality is that people should always be hiring. Right now we have a waiting list of about 35 applicants on our technician waiting list for people that want to come work at Wise Coatings at one of our locations.
That's amazing.
So if someone quits, if someone turns in their 2 weeks notice, if we need to put another truck on the road, like we just pick up the phone and start calling them and say, hey, we got an opening. And they're like, sweet, let's go. So
Love it.
when you hire from that position of authority, you could be a lot more picky and choosy with who you actually hire, not just anyone with a heartbeat, which we don't want to do.
Yep.
But then also it does something to your technicians when they realize that, hey, wow, there's a lot of people that want to come work here. I better make sure I'm stepping it up and, actually doing the checklists. And because guys, you have the ability to fire people in your company too, if they're not performing well. You don't have to just put up with it because it's hard to go hire people. So it just changes the whole dynamic in your company.
Yep. And I'm going to 100% agree with what you just said there, because on one condition, you guys put in the work and start filming your work while you're doing it. Like many times you guys go out there and you do the work and you're like, oh, I just hired this guy. Now I have to show him how to do it. Well, get him, just like what Brandon did, to hold the phone. I don't care how loud it is. You can overdub it later if you wanted to, right? Yeah. Just get out that camera and start filming every step that you guys do, from how you clean the trailer, how you organize the trailer, to how you mix your epoxy, to how you mix things perfectly, how you store your flakes so it doesn't freeze in the wind, whatever it might be. All of these different things matter. And then over time, something's going to come up. You're like, oh, it's not in my training system. He obviously missed it. And let's say it was a mistake. Pull out your camera and go over it and keep doing that over and over and over. And I guarantee you, within a year or two, you're going to be in the same position as Brandon in some way, where you can step out and work on other things that you want to do in your life, right? And that is huge. And one more thing I'm going to say, because I know, Brandon, you're super busy. You mentioned something about core values. And to a lot of people, they've heard that multiple times, but they don't implement it in their business.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a podcast about this one as well. Maybe it'll just be a single podcast with myself. I don't know, but I've been relentlessly working on this for years on how this works. Core values is not just for you, but it does come from you. And it's super, super important, because if you want people to go to bat for you and to fight for the growth of your company, which, let's face it, the one that benefits the most is you, and the employees know that. But if you have this culture that you're building to allow them to grow and succeed as well in multiple different ways through your core values, guys, your business will change, like in a really good way, right? And so I'm going to definitely be talking about that on another podcast. Just wanted to throw that in there. But yeah, so guys, hirebus.com/free. I'll also put a link to Wise Coatings as well, so that you guys can kind of see what he's done, and we'll just kind of go from there. Sound good?
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on, Rudy. I really appreciate it, man. And I'll be excited to watch your series. I want to be tuning in.
Sounds good.
I want to see this gutter company launch. Let's see. Let's go.
I'm super excited, man. I'm super excited. I have to now pull out the camera. I have to remember to do that now. So
yeah, that's right.
Anyway, cool, man. Well, again, thanks for your time today. Really, really appreciate it. Hope everything is good on your end, and we'll see you on the next time, I guess, whenever that is.
Good. All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
See you later.